What is up? What is up? You are listening to the bonus episode of Nate's Notes. See, I switched it up on you guys. You know, the lovers of the bonus episode are usually used to what up, but I said, what is up, what is up? So you're all surprised, I know. I'm Nate Jones. I'm one of the hosts of Nate's Notes, and with me, as always, is my always amused co-host, Griffin. How are you doing this fine evening?
I'm very amused right now.
That's great. That's how I planned for it to happen. So it went according to plan.
You just really keep me and everyone listening on their toes each week.
That's great. Stay on your toes, and it becomes a great workout. For the next 40 minutes, you will really feel a burn in your calves. So not only is this a sports and pop culture podcast, it is also a workout podcast as well, keeping those calves muscular. All right. So this is the bonus episode of Nate's Notes, as I mentioned earlier. If you have never listened to an episode of Nate's Notes or a bonus episode of Nate's Notes, on this bonus episode, we cover one big topic. So we'll talk about 40 minutes to an hour about one big topic. Sometimes we'll have special guests. Like our last episode, we had Holly Lind, who talked about the Olympics with Griffin and I, which is a really cool bonus episode. So if you've not checked that out, press pause on this one, listen to that one, and now come back to this one. All right, you're back. Thank you so much for listening to this one. We're going to talk about everything about free agency, NBA free agency. A lot happened. It was probably one of the most exciting summers for NBA free agency. It felt like you couldn't go to sleep because Adrian Wojnarowski was going to tweet something. And that actually happened to me because I was on the East Coast. West is best, and I missed the Kawhi Leonard news because I had fallen asleep because it was the East Coast. So, a lesson for you folks, don't live on the East Coast. So, where do you want to start with all this NBA free agency news, Griffin?
Well, where can I start? The whole NBA landscape has changed in the last 2 weeks.
Drastically, too.
Yeah, very drastically. I think when we kind of talked about how we were going to go about this topic, you mentioned we were talking about which teams are going to be impacted the most by the free agency and the players they acquired and maybe lost. So I'll start with what a do baby Kawhi Leonard going to the Los Angeles Clippers. I think that puts them in the driver's seat for the championship this season and makes them the favorites. And then to be able to acquire Paul George at the same time, and they still have Patrick Beverley. They just have a really good roster right now with the reigning MVP finals, Kawhi Leonard. I just think the Clippers easily have gained the biggest advantage this offseason.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think you're right on 100% there. The biggest thing to me about this news is, one, in this past year, Kawhi Leonard has gone from a very good basketball player to, he was kind of on the edge of being a star to an outright star that can demand things of an organization to get for his, for the ability for him to play for their team. I think is the most incredible thing. So for those of you who did not know, he basically went to the Clippers and said, I will sign with you if you get me another star, and I would like that star to be Paul George. Now, Paul George had just signed a pretty lucrative deal with the Oklahoma City Thunder.
I think it was more like all or nothing, like it's Paul George or I'm not coming kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like it had to be Paul George and not anybody else.
Yeah, I think you're kind of right about that. Because there's rumors, I think, right before we had recorded our last episode, I think the rumor was him and Kevin Durant wanted to play together. But then now it's like this whole Paul George thing was kind of in the works for a lot longer than people have thought. But the Clippers, to their credit, went out and did it. They gave up a lot of picks and a lot of future stuff for it, but Paul George is also now a member of the Clippers, which is absolutely incredible that they are able to pull that off. And as soon as that happened, then Kawhi Leonard agreed to sign with the Clippers. a lot of people had reported at that point Clippers are off the table, which they might have been at that point, because it's kind of a big thing to ask of a team to go get another superstar of that caliber who has that big of a contract and really means a lot to the city of Oklahoma. So it was interesting to see that they were willing to do that, and really impressive. And one of the interesting stories, and we can talk about this team a little bit after this, is that reportedly he never really wanted to go to the Lakers. I don't know how much I buy that, but his idea, and maybe it's just to add to his mythology and to make him more of a legend, but he didn't want to create another super team. Like, he didn't want a big three. He'd rather grab another friend or star and beat them as like a crosstown rival sort of thing. I don't know how true that is, because it did seem pretty cut and dry that he was probably going to the Lakers at one point. So I don't believe that 100%. What do you think about the possibility of Kawhi going to the Lakers?
You know what? I think in retrospect, looking back, I think a lot of the media was just reporting stuff out of thin air and it had no backing to it, because they're counting on being the first source to predict where he went correctly, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because everything I read was like, oh, I just talked to this person and they said Kawhi's for sure going to the Lakers, and then, oh, I just talked to this person, they said Kawhi's for sure going to the Clippers, and then, oh, I just talked to this third different person and they said he's for sure staying with the Raptors. So it was just like there was no real credibility anywhere looking back at all the reports. And so I think his actions speak louder than words, and I think he was kind of set on the Clippers from the beginning, and taking it one day at a time.
Yeah.
I think I read when I saw that Danny Green signed with the Lakers, I read something that he said, saying he kept texting Kawhi, trying to get him to tell him, like, hey, are you going to make a decision? Are you going to make a decision? Because Danny Green was trying to make his decision based on what Kawhi did. If Kawhi stayed with the Raptors, Green was going to stay with the Raptors.
Okay.
But if Kawhi went somewhere else, Green was going to go somewhere else because he was going to get more money for that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Green was basically saying, hey, I'll play with you, in Toronto again, because it was fun. It was awesome winning a championship.
Yeah.
But if you're not, then I'm going to go elsewhere because I know I can get big bucks from the Lakers, basically.
Wow.
I think for Danny Green, the Lakers was always the backup option.
Yeah.
So, and basically what Green said was that he could not get a response out of him. And so, like, Leonard just, wasn't telling anybody what he was going to do, really. So I think he was just really focused on enjoying his time off and thinking about what the next step was.
Yeah.
And I do buy what you were saying, that you were kind of contending. I do buy that he did not want to create a super team at the Lakers, and instead would like to have a challenge of going crosstown and beating them. And you know what? Even though it hurts he didn't go to the Lakers, because he easily is like the best player, I think, in my opinion, right now in the NBA.
Yep.
Not going to my team kind of sucks, and he goes to the rival team really sucks. But I still respect the crap out of him for it, because I love the decision to try and not make a super team, but rather go and grab one other star and just duke it out in the West, because the West is going to be absolutely incredible this next season.
Yeah, honestly, it just ups his legacy, I think, a little bit, and the respect people have for him. He, to me, I think we've talked about this through the lifetime of this podcast, is his legacy and how he could end up being more in the GOAT conversation than LeBron James. I think in our GOAT episode, we did talk a little bit about that. And to me, Kawhi Leonard, wanting to create these more competitive teams in a more balanced NBA, you look at all the duos now throughout the NBA, to me, that's Kawhi Leonard's doing. Everyone was like, okay, basically Kawhi Leonard and someone else, it seemed like in the finals, Kawhi Leonard was always the big piece, and then there's someone else who's his supporting character. It was Pascal Siakam, it was Kyle Lowry, it was all these different cast of characters. And it seems like maybe it's not this big three because maybe it's too many personalities. Maybe it's this big two. You think of Anthony Davis and LeBron James now, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. It's going to be Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. Like, there's a lot of duos in the NBA now where the big three was the big thing. And duos make the NBA a much more competitive league, in my opinion. And
Absolutely.
I'm so excited to see what happens with all these different pieces. And I almost forgot another duo. Now there's Russell Westbrook and James Harden, former Thunder teammates, reunited back in Houston, having a chance to go at a championship, the one that they never really got the chance to go after in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that I love having the duo teams instead of the big three teams.
Yeah.
And then even the Warriors last year kind of had like the big five with getting Boogie Cousins
Yep.
and acquiring him. It makes for a more entertaining league when anyone really has a shot at the beginning of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
That being said, I still think the West is just way stronger than the East is right now.
Yeah.
And, potentially whoever the West team that makes it into the finals is going to have a way tougher journey than the East team that makes it into the final.
Yeah.
And could potentially favor whichever East team makes the finals because they'll be a little less fatigued
Yeah.
from having to duke it out with, super competitive superstars.
Yeah, I think you're right. It seems like a much more balanced NBA in the sense that the West seems a little more balanced. And the East has good players, but, we'll talk about the Nets real quick. They got Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant won't play most of next season. So the Nets, they lost their best player from last season to the Warriors. D'Angelo Russell signed with the Warriors for around $110 million. To me, the Nets won't be great with just Kyrie. They'll probably be
They also got
okay
DeAndre Jordan, though.
Yeah, that's right. But how good is DeAndre? Like, it'll be interesting to see how the Nets are without Kevin Durant. I think Kevin Durant's becoming, because of his injuries and the team he decided to go with after leaving the Thunder, I think he's becoming an underrated star because people just thought he was on this loaded team and he didn't provide that much. So if the Nets struggle and then he comes and they succeed, it'll be interesting to see whose team it is because Kyrie Irving struggled with, he wanted it to be his team, but he kind of lost his team by being injured. Now he'll have a chance to establish himself as the leader. What happens when a better player comes into the fold?
Yeah, I mean, he will, if Durant comes back as any sort of the player he was before his injury, Kyrie Irving will again be in the shadow of another superstar on a team where he just wants to be the superstar.
It's fascinating. I think he's caught in between. He wants to win an NBA championship and he wants to be the sole leader of a team. And he experienced what that was like in Cleveland after LeBron left and he had just gotten drafted, I believe. He saw how hard it was to build a team up from the ground like that and how hard it is to be successful that way. And then he got LeBron, and then he didn't like working with LeBron. And then he came to the Celtics, an established team with stars and a good coach. He didn't like that. So really, he could just end up never winning another NBA championship chasing this feeling. I don't know what he's really looking for right now, but I don't know if the Nets will be that good.
Not until Durant comes back at the very least. So
they'll probably get a playoff spot in the East. Like you said, the East didn't really get much stronger. The strong ones made themselves a little better. Looking at the 76ers, the addition of Al Horford, re-signing Ben Simmons. This was today. See, the news just keeps coming. This has been happening for 2 weeks now. Ben Simmons re-signed on a huge deal, and Tobias Harris also re-signed on a pretty big deal as well, uh, giving the 76ers another good shot at championship. And they got rid of maybe their cancer. It's hard to tell if he's good for teams or bad for teams. What are your thoughts on Jimmy Butler?
Oh man, I don't think I watch him enough on TV to actually see the impact that he has on the court. But if he's just constantly like negative in practices and in the locker room and just calling people out, like it does add up, and it can, for some people that'll drive them to be better. But I know for other people it really just becomes more of a hindrance, and you just become more caught up in trying to make right with Jimmy Butler instead of playing your game. And so I think Jimmy Butler on the Heat, I don't think, is anyone else on the Heat worthy of noting? Or is it Jimmy Butler's team at this point?
It's Jimmy Butler. They added a couple pieces, but they got rid of Hassan Whiteside, right?
I think so. I think they still have
Waiters.
Dragic or Dragic.
Yeah.
Is that his name? I have the list here. I don't know why I'm not looking at it. Let's see if I can find it.
All right, so Hassan.
Goran Dragic.
Yep.
Dragic. I don't. He's still in Miami, but I think Jimmy Butler would be considered the best player on that team, and so it'll be like his team. And I think it's going to be pretty similar to when he was on the Bulls. He's just going to get frustrated that he's not surrounded by super talented people. Not saying that people on the Heat aren't talented, but they're not going to be the same as, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid. They're not going to be that same level. So I think he'll enjoy, being at the helm again, but I think by the end of the season, he'll get frustrated with the lack of support around him.
I think so. The one good thing is Myers Leonard and Mo Harkless went to the Heat in the trade for Hassan Whiteside. So that gives them some young talent to kind of work with there. Myers Leonard was I believe he was a rookie last year. Pretty impressive. He was a pretty great rebounder and a big man, and he's absolutely ripped. He looks like, the way his muscles are, he looks like he should be 5'5", but he's 6'10". He's an incredible looking human being, if that's not weird to say to a stranger I've never met. But Myers Leonard, he has a weird name though. Myers Leonard, I think, will have a great NBA career, and maybe being somewhere on Miami where they might not make the playoffs this year will be a good place for him to kind of build himself into the NBA player he wants to be.
I mean, I'm looking at the Eastern Conference of where the standings finished up last season.
Yeah,
I think the Heat can sneak in there. I think the Raptors. Here's one bold prediction for you. I think the Raptors could potentially fall out of the playoffs.
I don't think they'll make the playoffs. Yeah.
I think the Heat can be the team that replaces them in there. I think the Wizards could end up getting back in there.
Yeah. One of my favorite moves was Isaiah Thomas getting signed by the Washington Wizards, which has been kind of a long grind for him after being traded by the Celtics. So I hope this team is where he's able to develop into the player he was 3 years ago.
Or at least, to an 80% of that level where he's still a really solid player.
Yeah, I think he can, and I think a weaker Eastern Conference. What do you think about the Celtics and the moves they made? They lost a lot. They didn't gain a ton, but where do you think this puts them in the Eastern Conference now?
So actually, out of all the teams to acquire and lose players, West and East, I ranked them as the sixth team to provide the most impact to their team. Getting Kemba Walker, Enes Kanter, you told me before we started recording,
Yep.
And then Taco Fall has been killing it in summer league. I think he'll get some time in the NBA this summer.
Yeah.
I think because they lost Kyrie, that'll actually hold some benefit to it, and I think they could potentially move up to third in the Eastern Conference, behind the Bucks and the 76ers.
Right. I that's where I kind of have them right now.
I think because they still have, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name, Gordon Hayward.
Yep, Gordon Hayward.
Still have Gordon Hayward. They're gonna have Kemba Walker coming in.
Jason
they still
Tatum.
have a solid team.
Yep.
Yeah, Jason Tatum. They have a solid team still, and I can't think of any of the other East teams that got better than them. I think it'll be fun to watch the Celtics play the Nets for the first time and see what kind of reception Kyrie gets.
Yeah, I don't
see how he reacts.
Yeah, there's not a lot of love left in Boston for him. So I'm looking at the 8 teams that made the playoffs in the Eastern Conference this year, and the only team, there are 2 teams. I think there's a possibility they could swap places with someone, but I'm not sure who it'd be. That's the Heat and the Hawks. I think the Hawks are young and have good talent, and so there's a possibility they surprise everyone, end up an 8th seed. Same with the Heat. But otherwise, it would not shock me if even the rankings, like 1 through 8, was exactly the same. I think the Magic are the one team that would flop places with someone else.
Well, I think the Raptors will either finish like
8,
bottom 4,
or
potentially not make it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Hawks with Trae Young they're looking like they have, they're looking upward, like they're going to be improving this next season.
Yeah, I think so too.
Let's see. One duo we didn't really talk about, I have listed as my second most influential acquisitions for the free agency, and that's Bogdanovich and Conley to the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
I think everyone that I've seen has kind of been raving about the Jazz and the people they've picked up this offseason, and I would like to agree with them and side with them, and they've become Western Conference final contenders at this point.
100%.
And so, after finishing 5th last season in the regular season, I think, they're just as competitive as the other teams in the West.
Yeah,
which is a big compliment to them based off of the star power that these other teams have.
Yeah, I think you're right. They did a great job this offseason. They already have Donovan Mitchell, and they have 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert. So really, they've just done a fantastic job to really improve the assets of their players and really just build around, what's worked, and they found out what maybe doesn't work as well, and then just try to make a good contender. And instead of it seemed like teams used to build teams to beat the Warriors. Teams in the Western Conference are just building teams that are really good, which I think should have been the case all along. But I think if you look at the Raptors did not draft Kawhi to beat the Warriors, because that was like the 5th thing on their list that they had to worry about. And they got Kawhi because they thought they'd make their team a whole lot better, which he did. And then they were able to work around and adjust. So I think that's what you're starting to see, because you look at the team like the Nuggets, who definitely don't have a team that really should match up well with the Warriors. They did this past season, and it would have been interesting to see if they were in the Western Conference Finals. So I think we'll start to see more of that. But if the Utah Jazz can have a full, healthy season and have great output from all of the players they need to, I think we're in for a really exciting season for the Jazz.
I absolutely agree. Want to mention I have Anthony Davis and Danny Green to the Lakers as my 3rd most influential acquisitions.
Yep.
Westbrook to the Rockets at 4. Durant, Kyrie, Jordan to the Nets at 5.
Okay.
Kemba, Taco, Cantor to the Celtics at 6.
Okay.
Al Horford to the 76ers at 7.
Yep.
D'Angelo Russell to the Warriors at 8th. And then J.J. Redick, Ball, Ingram, and Hart to the Pelicans at 9. Obviously, they got Zion as well, but because that was a draft pick instead of
signing
a trade or a signing, I just kind of left it out. But are you ready for a couple of my bold predictions of the season?
I hope we share some because I have a bold one too. I've shared this a couple times. It probably won't work out, but I like it. But you go first.
So I mentioned this to Nate last season, and it actually panned out. I said the Los Angeles Lakers would not make the playoffs last season with LeBron, and it ended up happening.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the teams now, and I want to say they won't make the playoffs again this season.
Okay.
However, I do think they could, with the Thunder losing Westbrook and Paul George. I think the Thunder will not make the playoffs this year, and then I just don't know about the Spurs as well. So I'm going to go ahead and predict right now the Lakers will finish either 8th or 9th next season. So they will either be just in the playoffs or they will miss out.
Yeah, so I'm looking at...
Thoughts on that?
You could be right, but I don't know. To me, looking at this and looking at the 8 teams that were in the playoffs, the only team that you would remove is the Oklahoma City Thunder. The other 7 teams will probably make the playoffs, including the Clippers. The Spurs, I don't think, can miss the playoffs. I don't think it's in their DNA, and they're getting some good guys back from injury. So I think they'll probably be in that 7th spot again next year. But so my bold prediction and my hope is that the New Orleans Pelicans have a better record than the Los Angeles Lakers.
Oh my gosh, dude, that was the second bold prediction I had. I was going to say the exact same thing. I think the Pelicans will finish with a better record than the Lakers.
If I am playing NBA 2K and I have the option to only play the Pelicans or the Lakers, I would choose the Pelicans. To me, that just seems like a more fun team and a more balanced team. The Lakers feel very heavy in certain areas and very weak in others. So if there's, I feel like in the guard area, for the most part, the Lakers are pretty weak. And forwards and centers, they're almost too heavy where you won't get good playing time from every single forward or center.
Right. There's no depth either. I think I'm kind of banking on LeBron and Anthony Davis both missing time this season due to injury because of what happened last year for both of them.
Yeah.
I do not think they're going to make the playoffs. If they do, it'll be the 8th seed. That is my first prediction, and my second is right there with you. Pelicans are going to get that 7th or 8th seed, I think.
Yeah, I hope to see it happen. It'd be fun to see it happen, in my opinion. I know, as weird as that sounds to say, but I think it'd be kind of fun to see it happen, and I don't know. It'll be an interesting look for the NBA. But then when we're also talking, so they got better. The Lakers did. The Pelicans got better. A team that we're kind of forgetting about, the Dallas Mavericks, they have Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic now as another duo. And for a little bit, they're kind of hanging around playoff contention, and then towards the end of the season, they fell off from it, ending in second to last in the West. They're actually tied with 2 other teams for second to last with the Pelicans and the Grizzlies. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. I think we'll get a real picture of all of this really early on next season, like 20 games in. We'll be like, okay, this is what this team probably is. But right now, it's hard to... It's for me right now, and I see this a little bit in the Eastern Conference too, but for different reasons. It's really hard to take a team that made the playoffs last year and make them not make the playoffs this year, because most teams got better if they did anything, minus the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are probably going to get rid of Chris Paul. So, I don't know. Man, the NBA is fun. It's so competitive right now.
This is one of the first seasons, I would say, in the last 5 years where I'm super excited to actually watch games in depth all the time and just see teams duke it out.
100%. This would be a really good time for to like, put down the money, buy the NBA League Pass so you can like watch several out of market games. Do like the split screen, like 6 different games, because I feel like every night there's going to be a couple good games going on just because how spread out the talent is now. It's really fun to watch, and great job, Adam Silver, because he tried to destroy tanking, and they did, and it's kind of led to a pretty fair NBA. I still think they'll probably demolish Western and Eastern conferences to make it even fair. NBA, just like the top 16 teams make it to the playoffs, and then seeding goes from there. That's what I see as the future for the playoffs. But for right now, I think it looks pretty fair and fun right now.
Absolutely agree.
All right, so we kind of, in passing, we talked about most of the big ones. What are some ones you think people are probably forgetting about? Like, what players went to different teams that were probably like, oh, they went there? I don't remember that, through all this craziness.
I don't know. I can tell you that as of, I think today, I saw that J.R. Smith was planning on signing with a new team.
Yep, he got waived
and basically
by the Cavs.
Yeah, everything I'm seeing is he's not going to the Lakers because of LeBron, obviously. Like, LeBron doesn't want him to play on his team ever again.
Yep.
Carmelo Anthony is still like a free agent and hasn't been picked up by anyone. There's rumors that the Lakers would try and pick up him, which I wouldn't put it past them because right now they're the retirement team minus Anthony Davis. Yeah, I think like D'Angelo Russell one was kind of one that slid under the radar, I felt like.
Yeah, because he was kind of like, people were like, oh, this is going to be a big one, but people stopped caring because he went to the Warriors. Like,
yeah, and I think there were so many other bigger names that were like the news was dropping on. So like Durant and like Kyrie and Kemba, like those sort of names. So like not a lot of people were that excited about Russell going to the Warriors. I guess now that I'm saying that out loud, I'm thinking about Andre Iguodala was traded to the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's currently still on that team.
He will be released at some point, I believe, but I believe he's still currently on that team.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see anything on this website I'm on. So I think that one kind of slid under the radar. I thought he was, a key part to their dynasty, and for them to, it was a good trade because they got youth out of D'Angelo Russell, and he's obviously a superstar. So it was a good trade. It wasn't necessarily Iguodala for Russell because they got Russell, but they had to release Iguodala for cap space, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are there any players you're thinking of that I'm missing?
Not really.
Julius Randle to the Knicks.
Yeah, the Knicks kind of disappointed everybody. Julius Randle was like their biggest pick, and I don't know if everyone remembered, but at one point, the internet had Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Zion leading the Knicks to glory, and that is far from it. So it's very interesting to see how that team has kind of fallen from grace in NBA fans' eyes. Even just like people are kind of viewing them positively at the beginning of last season. They still had Kristaps. Now they don't have Kristaps. People aren't really excited about the future of this team. I think we kind of covered them all. To me, everything that happened with the Thunder caught me by surprise. If you had told me that those two players would not be on the team for this upcoming season, I would have told you you're crazy, because they both signed pretty large contracts recently. They both seemed happy-ish there. And I saw them being successful for, at one point they were the number 3 seed in the West last year. So they were not bad together. Something there doesn't work, but they were winning a lot of games in a very difficult conference. So they were never a bad team. And it seems like it ended all love with Russell Westbrook and Paul George, which is a lot different than the Kevin Durant,
Russell Westbrook. Yeah.
marriage that kind of ended in divorce, which makes me think maybe Russell Westbrook also requested a trade, and the Paul George one is the only one that kind of got out that he wanted to trade. So that'll be very interesting to see what happens with that, because they seem very happy, and maybe they're more upset with the coaching and other key factors, which a lot of people don't consider, but still very fascinating offseason story in my opinion.
I agree. It was something I definitely did not expect at all either. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at a few other smaller names,
Okay.
or at least right now, that are kind of under the radar. But DeMarcus Cousins and Quinn Cook, both from the Golden State Warriors to the Lakers.
Yep.
I'm starting to realize the Lakers are just not very creative, and they're just like, oh, the Warriors were good. Let's get all of their players and staff, because they were trying to get their assistant coach again after the last head coach we had. I'm blanking on his name right now, but the young guy. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I think he's Sacramento's coach now.
Yeah. Luke Walton?
Luke Walton, yeah.
Yep.
So, we acquired Luke Walton from the Warriors after they went on their dynasty run, and now they're going for the next assistant coach, and we're just getting their supporting cast players that will sign with the Lakers. I don't know, it's just not creative to me. They're just trying to pick off, any sort of thing they can get from a winning team.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, the Lakers that's why when I think we might both share the sentiment when we talk about where the Pelicans finish. I think it might finally get the Lakers to realize how much of a dumpster fire they are and just abandon everything. I think you don't want to abandon LeBron James. Don't trade LeBron James. Don't do anything like that. But something in that front office, ownership, executives, anything like that, they are not making right decisions. And maybe LeBron James is pushing them too much. But it just, from a basketball sense, they do not have the correct number of players in each position. So something is not making sense. And maybe when they realize, oh, wow, we traded all this for one player and this team's better than us, we should get rid of so whoever suggests
who's making that decision. Yeah.
And you can't blame it on Magic Johnson anymore, which I believe a lot of people were. And now someone's actually going to get fired for it, which is fascinating to me.
Well, we'll see if they actually get fired or not.
Probably not, but everyone's a family friend there. Yeah. All right. So one last thing before we get going on this bonus episode. What are you most excited? So the number one thing you're most excited for this upcoming NBA season?
God, I don't think I'm allowed to say seeing Kawhi Leonard be successful with a third different team, because he is on my team's rival.
Yeah.
But I'm boycotting the Lakers right now because they have LeBron James, and I'm just not a fan.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think the thing I'm most excited to anticipate potentially happening is Kawhi Leonard winning a third NBA championship with a third NBA Finals MVP on a third different team, and kind of solidifying his greatness. And I tweeted this. I know you saw it.
Yep.
But maybe for listeners that don't follow me or anything like that, I said that if Kawhi Leonard wins an NBA championship this season and is clearly at the helm of it with the Los Angeles Clippers, he is undoubtedly, unarguably the better option at being compared to Michael Jordan than LeBron James ever has been. I think it's just a no-brainer if he's able to do this with the third team and get his third ring, because it's just that would be incredible.
Yep. Yeah. I believe I retweeted it on Nate's notes if anyone wants to take a look at it. Yeah, it'll be that's a great one. I think mine is kind of similar, and I get where you're coming with the Lakers thing. Is I got so tired of Kyrie and just the drama he brought, he's a talented basketball player. I appreciate what he did for the Celtics, but I'm excited for Kemba Walker to be a better addition to the Boston Celtics than he ever was. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I would love Kemba Walker to lead the Celtics in the NBA Finals, and Kyrie Irving realized he was not able to do that. That, to me, would be my number one NBA moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. I'm sure you would be very happy to see Walker be successful and Kyrie to kind of not so much.
Yeah.
But I've actually got one more that I just came across. It kind of encompasses both, where it's a pickup or a switch that kind of went under the radar, and it's actually something I'm really excited to see how he does. But Derrick Rose going from the Minnesota Timberwolves to the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
I've always loved Derrick Rose as a player. He was phenomenal before all the injuries, and got me super excited about playing basketball. Like, him and Kobe Bryant were kind of the two guys where, I'd be watching and it's like, okay, I'm going to the basketball court after this game and going to try and do what they do.
Yeah.
Just a fun player to watch, and I would like to see him be successful this next season.
Yeah, I agree with you right there. That's pretty great, and it was great to see him be successful last season. And the Pistons are decent with Blake Griffin. See, we have another duo there, the League of Duos. Blake Griffin, Derrick Rose. That'd be pretty cool to see them. That's a pretty decent Lob City there. So we'll see how that goes in Detroit. It'll be fun to see. So we're in for a lot this NBA season, and so are the fans. And if you want up to date, obviously we cover a lot about the NBA. We just talked about the NBA for 41 minutes. So if you want more NBA content like this, make sure you like us, follow us, and subscribe to us on social media. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just look up Nate's Notes in that search bar. Subscribe. You can even give us 5 stars on iTunes. If you're liking what you're listening to right now, that would really help us out a lot. It helps other people find us, which is really great for the show. And we appreciate everyone, all the kind comments on YouTube, Facebook. Everyone has been really supportive. And if there's something you would like to hear us talk about in long form, you can reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or leave a comment on YouTube as well and let us know what you'd like to hear next. But this has been the bonus episode of Nate's Notes. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next Tuesday.